Hello, everybody, and welcome to our next edition of podcast-style reading, The Equestrian Hunger Games. Once again, just to remind everyone, there will be no edits, and I will probably laugh and make fun of this quite a lot, and then punch whoever's on Skype that will not shut up. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's begin. Sparkler sat tirelessly on the plush red beanbag chair placed in the room inside the Harmony building, no longer the Harmon building, where the tributes are allowed to meet any pony that visited them for a final goodbye. She knew she was terrified, but strained to not give any pony the chance to see her in such a weak state. It was sad, really, having to see some pony who was always so rowdy and violent end up so depressed and weak. No, Sparkler would not end up like all the other former tributes. She would stand strong until the very end, and maybe even win the games. But how could she? Perhaps her skills in hunting would prove useful for once, besides getting food on the table. Yes, that would do it, because I often find my ability to hunt is just a huge burden. Maybe she could even escape right then and there. There was no pony in the room right now, and Nightmare Moon's magic-powered security cameras couldn't always keep track of her. She could go run off into the woods and live a lonely and simple life all by herself. Maybe she could even go with Brayburn's idea and run off together with the entire family. She never had the chance to try the escape plan, though, as the door suddenly opened and revealed two ponies. The very ponies that would always support Sparkler no matter what happened. Mom, Dinky, Sparkler could only muster up to say as she saw the two ponies' weeping faces. As quick as the foal's legs could take her, Dinky jumped up into Sparkler's forehooves and hugged her as tightly as she could. She had tear lines streaking down her face, and was still sobbing even when Sparkler told the filly to let go. In the end, Ditzy Doo had to pull her youngest daughter away so Sparkler could have room to breathe. "Why, sis?" Dinky asked as she tried to wipe her tears. "Why did you do that?" "What, take your place?" Sparkler tried to sound as calm as she could. "Well, I figured you wouldn't make it at all on your own and decided, hey, why the buck not?" Sparkler struggled a grin as she looked at her family's expressions. Her mother had her usual wall-eyed stare, so it was always hard for Sparkler to find out what she was thinking. I just imagine just completely cross-eyed, ruining the entire moment. It took some time, but Ditzy Doo finally patted her daughter's back and embraced her in a meaningful hug. "I knew you could do it, my little muffin," Ditzy Doo said. "You're stronger than most ponies here in District 12, and you're very handy with that bow." "Yeah, knock those other tributes down with your bow," Dinky chimed in, her voice suddenly aging several years. Sparkler couldn't help but laugh at her family's remark. She knew the other tributes were far stronger than she was, and her chances of winning were slim. She knew that even if she had Brayburn at her side, she was still at risk of death, or worse, having to kill Brayburn. It was also quite sad to see how little Dinky knew about the games. Perhaps that was all she thought it was all about. Perhaps that was what she thought it was all about, a big game. Dinky knew all about death and violence of it all. Every pony did. But there was something in that childlike innocence that couldn't comprehend the fact that her sister was just as good as dead. Maybe it was the fact that Sparkler was Dinky's own sister, and she didn't want to lose her just yet. "Please make it back alive," Dinky said with an expression that could cure 1,000 ill ponies. Sparkler didn't want to take any chances. On one hoof, she was skilled. On the other hoof, so were the other tributes. She may have already lost the Hunger Games before it even began. No, she hasn't. She is going to stay strong and survive this thing as long as she can. Once again, tenses. It bugs me. "I promise," Sparkler replied. "Pinky promise?" Dinky demanded. All right, I pinky promise. I'll make it back alive," said Sparkler. She then did the ritual that was created by Pinkie Pie many years ago. The ponies of Ponyville had taken it as somewhat official ritual. Even Rarity did it from time to time. It was probably the best kind of promise since no pony has ever broken one as of yet. Cross my heart and hope to fly, stick a cupcake in my eye. With that said, Dinky wiped a final tear from her face and hugged her mother for comfort. Ditzy only smiled warmly as she looked at Sparkler with tear-filled eyes. Their time together was ending quite soon, and there was still so much left to say. Your father is very proud of you, Ditzy finally said. Mom, Dad's dead, Sparkler said matter-of-factly. Ditzy was just about to say something else when suddenly a royal guard burst in through the door and told them their time was finally over. Ditzy wanted to protest, but Sparkler told her to let it go. She didn't want to see her mother killed, or exiled, or jailed, or killed in a jail while being in exile. Well, that sounded very strange indeed. Goodbye, sis, Dinky shouted as tears started falling down her face again. And don't forget Pinky promise. I'll remember that I'll always love you, Ditzy added. The door was closed and Sparkler went back to her thinking state, wondering if it wasn't too late to run away. The way her family had wished her goodbye and showed her love in just those few moments had really struck Sparkler deeply. She had to come back alive. If not for herself, then for her family. After all, she cared deeply about the little foal in Ditzy, and Ditzy was one of the nicest mares a pony could ever wish to have for a mother. Maybe Sparkler has been too harsh on her. Sparkler didn't know if any pony else would be coming, since she had little ties to any pony. There was Brayburn, Pinkie Pie, Sweetie Belle. As if on cue, the door was burst open, and a white bundle of energy leaped straight into Sparkler. That was soon followed by another white mare, walking elegantly as she used her magic to close the door behind her. The two of them also seemed to have just finished crying. What is it with you guys and running into me? Sparkler complained. Sorry, Sparkler, Sweetie Belle said with a sad smile. Sweetie Belle here just desperately wanted to see you, Sparkler, Rarity chimed in. And I guess I had to see you as well. Sweetie Belle then started to fire word after word of everything she had to say. She said she tried to take Sparkler's place as well, just as Sparkler had predicted. Rarity was there to add in her own 2 bits to the conversation, hoping not to just be a third wheel to the two ponies' conversation. You know, our time's running out pretty quick, Sparkler finally said. You guys should just say your goodbyes and get this over with. Time flies when you're having fun, right? Sweetie Belle said with a hopeful smile and a voice that's much too high-pitched for this reader to emulate. More like time flies when I have to listen to you talking, Sparkler muttered under her breath. Well, I hope to see you around. Indeed, Rarity said. I know I'll miss you if you were to leave. The 2 white unicorns turned around to finally leave before Rarity suddenly stopped dead in her tracks. She finally remembered the reason she wanted to come with Sweetie Belle in the first place. She turned around and handed something to the magenta mare. For you, Rarity said with a slight quiver in her voice. Do remember us when you're in the games, will you? Sparkler looked at the item she was just handed by the mayor of Ponyville. It was a small gold pin with a picture of a phoenix. This surprised Sparkler very much. She did not expect to be given something this expensive. Yes, that was the best term, expensive. The pin would have been the most valuable thing she might have ever had in her hooves which wasn't stolen. Would have been... Sparkler wanted to give it back to Rarity and ask her to fix all the errors, but she didn't deserve it. Plus, this must have been very important to the family too, since Sweetie Belle was wearing it on Reaping Day. Rarity only declined to take it back. She wanted Sparkler to take it. It's only fair that you get this, she said. Sweetie Belle's best friend should have this since I gave it to my best friend, Fluttershy, a few years ago, when she... Yes? Sparkler asked. Nothing, Rarity finally said as she trotted out the door, saying nothing else. Sweetie Belle only managed to wave a hoof before the door was slammed unceremoniously by the guard. Now Sparkler was alone again, 2 visitors so far, and some others were sure to come. She looked at the pin she had just received from Rarity with amusement. Even better, Sweetie Belle claimed she was her best friend. Sparkler never considered that. She only thought of Sweetie Belle as an acquaintance. 'Cause she's kind of a... Anyway, the sound of the door opening brought Sparkler back into reality. This time, it was a mare Sparkler never thought she would see again. A cream mare with dark blue and pink mane. Sparkler never even thought she would see the mare ever again. Alright, I'm going to read that one more time for emphasis. This time, it was a mare Sparkler never thought she would see again. A cream-colored mare with a dark blue and pink mane. Sparkler never even thought she would see the mare ever again. Redundant! Bon, Sparkler noted. Good to see you, Amethyst, Bon said with a motherly tone. What are you doing here? To wish you good luck, of course, she added. Sparkler looked at the adult mare with a mix of relief, depression, and confusion. After Sparkler was adopted by Ditsy-Doo and the doctor, she never even once considered going to visit Bon. She never liked that place, after all. It was even worse considering the fact that she had lived since foalhood. As opposed to having died at some point. But before foalhood, though, it was nothing. I know you may not like me that much, Bon started to say. As if, Sparkler interrupted. But I just wanted to let you know that I still care for you. I care for all of my children, whether or not they're mine. Even though I just contradicted myself. Bon started to sound melancholic as she added the final words. I could still remember you as the young foal who couldn't even feed herself, Amethyst. There was a collective silence between the two mares as Sparkler listened to her talk. She always liked Bon for her ability to make any pony feel happy due to her motherly personality. Perhaps this was the only thing she actually liked about the orphanage, Bon. Here, take these with you, added the mare as she handed a small pouch to Sparkler. I hope you still like my sweets. Before Sparkler could reply, Bon had trotted out of the room. Now she had 2 gifts. Did the previous tributes also get as many visitors and gifts? She then remembered her pinky promise with Dinky, and her resolution became even more firm. With a determined face, Sparkler took off her dress and placed it on the beanbag as she walked to the door, ready to leave for Canterlot. Slam! The door opened loudly with a slam as a pink mare trotted into the room and looked Sparkler straight in the eyes. She had a one-of-a-kind grin that either meant she was going to throw a party or punch you in the face. This time, it was neither. Pinkie Pie hugged Sparkler tightly as Sparkler came back to her senses. Okay, maybe she wasn't really expecting Pinkie Pie to show up, but it was great she cared for her. After a full minute, 60 seconds on the dot, Pinkie Pie said, of hugging, Pinkie let go and placed a knowing hoof on Sparkler's shoulders. This author has no concept of pacing at all. Gummy and I need to tell you something before you leave, she said as the prized green toothless baby alligator could be seen munching on Pinkie Pie's curtain-like mane. Your lucky colors are going to be mint, light yellow, and caramel. Be careful of statues and blue flowers. If you see any pony in that field of blue flowers, help them. Were you consulting with your pinky senses again? Sparkler asked with an uneasy explanation. Never underestimate the pinky senses, Pinkie Pie said with a grin. You're going to do fine, see? Pinkie Pie then had one of her famous pinky senses, her whole body tingling, followed by her tail twitching and her ears flopping. The sign that means that some pony was going to be safe. Body tingling, twitchy tail, ear flopping, I'm pretty sure means something's going to fall from the sky. Sparkler just wondered for how long the pinky senses would be true. As quick as she came in, Pinkie Pie bounded out the door with Gummy hanging onto her mane. It wasn't even fully closed yet when a hoof pushed it open again. A stallion's hoof. Thought I'd say goodbye before y'all left, Brayburn said with a smirk. I don't think you have long, Sparkler added, looking at the clock. Listen, Sparky, you gotta win this, you hear? There are 24 of us. Only one of us could win. What are the chances of me being that pony? You got a high chance, I reckon. Brayburn then hugged Sparkler tightly as the guard trotted up towards the stallion and tapped his shoulder. Brayburn only nodded knowingly and trotted away. He stopped for a moment and waved a hoof towards Sparkler as he left, leaving Sparkler slightly dumbfounded. Did these teary goodbyes always bring out the strangest of most ponies? Because those two last ones were as confusing as ever. Sparkler trotted out of the room, accompanied by 2 royal guards. Apparently, she was still considered unstable. Good. She had an edge to work with. She was then met with Carmel and the great and powerful Trixie, both waiting for her at the side of the entrance of the Harmony building. The great and powerful Trixie had a smug look on her face, and Carmel only nodded with a calm smile. The ride from Harmony building to District 12's train station felt even longer than usual, probably because the streets were jam-packed with ponies, looking at the 2 ponies for the last time. All the while, the great and powerful Trixie tried to make the ride as lively as possible, while the 2 tributes only sat there silently. "Oh, you are just so going to love the Friendship Express. It has all kinds of good food and is just amazing." "Why is it called the Friendship Express if there's nothing so friendly about it?" Sparkler said with her typical rude behavior. "Well, the train was called that before Nightmare Moon, so I guess the name stuck," Carmel, whose voice is not Trixie's, finally said with a hopeful smile. "Lazy ponies," Sparkler grumbled. When they had I'm sure there is a mountain of paperwork that has to go in with changing the name of the only train that runs through a town, and then you gotta change all the schedules, you gotta change all the signs, and it's just a big hassle, and since there was no sun, I'm sure it was rather dark, and ponies are not known for their ability to write. Therefore, cut them some slack. That's all I'm saying, Sparkler. Just cut them some slack. When they had arrived at the train station, the whole place was already crowded. Apparently, they were all hopeful for this year's female tribute. Everybody knew about Sparkler whether they wanted to or not, and it didn't always start out with a nice conversation either. My glasses are filthy. Filthy. 3 ponies got on the train and waved off the crowd of ponies. Pony, pony, pony. Carmel was smiling kindly, and Sparkler was with her grumpy sneer. The great and powerful Trixie thought it was a good idea to start with some fireworks inside the train. Needless to say, every pony cleared out of the train station after that. "So, the great and powerful Trixie," Sparkler said with a hint of hatred towards the long name. "Where do we go now?" "Please, just call me Trixie," said the great and powerful Trixie with a cheesy grin. "As for what's next, we just have to watch the recap of the reapings to see your other competitors." "She never lets any pony call her Trixie," Carmel whispered to Sparkler's ear as they trotted towards the carriage where they would watch all the reapings. "Oh, she's going to be so disappointed when we die," Sparkler whispered back. They then watched the reapings and tried to list out all of the probable enemies and difficulties they would be facing. Of course, there were the Alpha team from Districts 1 and 2, consisting of 2 stallions named Snowflake. "Looks like a pony on steroids," Carmel said. "Let's just call him Roid Rage." And Billy, whose name does not get a cool name. "I'm sure he's got something up his sleeve," Sparkler said. The 2 fillies called Diamond Tiara. "Ah, she's a bitch," Sparkler said matter-of-factly. And Silver Spoon. "Oh, looks smart. Better be careful around her," said Carmel. "Oh, they're gonna kill them, and I'm going to giggle." There were also some other ponies that stood out, mostly a unicorn named Lyra from District 5. "Strange pony," Carmel stated. A young filly named Apple Bloom. "I wonder if she's any..." And her older brother, Big Macintosh. "Oh, crap. Big guy, big problem," Sparkler said dejectedly. Ooh, Big Mac. Oh, I kind of want Big Mac to win, but I know he's not going to because he's not the main character. But, I mean, come on. He's Big Mac. If you were going to have somebody win a feat of, endurance, strength, etc., it would be Big Mac. He's the only male. Not only the only male, but the workhorse. He wears a yoke around his neck constantly, for crying out loud. That man's dedicated and deserves it. Both from District 11. When they were done, they all trotted outside before they were stopped by a plum-colored mare holding a bottle of alcohol. "Sup, guys?" the mayor said with a glassy expression. "It's gonna be a long week, you know." "Very punch," Sparkler grumbled. "Shouldn't you be, getting ready to train us?" Carmel asked. "Meh, you guys are good to go," Berry Punch added. "I'm just her for the drinks. Have fun murdering each other." The mayor trotted away, followed closely behind by Trixie, who was complaining about something to the mayor. Berry Punch, however, just bucked the unicorn, and she came flying through the carriage and slammed into the side of the train. "We are so gonna die," Sparkler muttered, losing all hope she had gained from her visitors. In Chapter 3, twists and turns and roundabouts and come back from whence you came, or whatever the quote may be. Looks like we got a lot of cameo-style things. Sweetie Belle, or Silver Spoon, Diamond Tiara, Big Mac, Apple Bloom. Oh, Apple Bloom's gotta die. Oh, Billy. Oh, Billy, I think you stand a good chance. Oh, poor Billy. I knew him. Anyway, so long, Blue Ranger. Good night.